Hey, it's 12th of September 2021, number 139. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I've seen on my YouTube recommendations. I'm going to be trying it myself, seeing how it works. I see a lot of things on my you should watch this on YouTube going on about vinyl hauls. Well, people talk about the records that they bought recently and how much they spent for them and how they got fantastic deals from charity shops in villages that no longer exist and operate in different time zones, and how they paid 49 cents for 49 pence even for a vinyl LP that's worth approximately £20 million. And look at the stuff I've got, suckers, and don't you jealous that you've got it. What I'm going to do instead, I'm going to talk about some records I've bought recently. Not going to be about a specific album, and talk about why I bought them and where I bought them from. And if this doesn't work, or it's boring, or something like that, I may never do one again. What I will say is, it's been a really busy month for me in terms of buying records. I've done two things that I haven't done for a very, very long time. On Thursday, I went into London, and I went record shopping, and I went and saw my brother, who I haven't seen in 2 years, which is quite a while, and I don't want to leave it that long next time. And the second thing that I did is on Friday, I went to see the Sisters of Mercy and Jesus Jones at the Camden Roundhouse in an all-standing gig, just like pre-COVID times. And I deliberately tried not to get too emotional about that. I've had 3 previous first lockdown gigs that have all been cancelled or postponed, which I've mentioned before, either Mogwai at Prism in Kingston, the Wedding Present at the Forum in Tunbridge Wells, or O Hiroshima at the Tufnell Park Dome, which was due to take place last night but was cancelled. And so instead, I made the decision to go and see the Sisters of Mercy at very short notice, about 2 days, and I also didn't get invested in it at all. So if it turned up and it was awful or it was weird, it wasn't like, this is my glorious return to live music. But to just experience it and try and go, this is weird. And it was one hell of an experience, actually, because it felt almost normal. Now, I went to the Roundhouse in Camden, which is not my favourite venue in the world. It's a converted railway roundhouse where effectively the trains would go in and they'd turn around, much like Thomas the Tank Engine. The drawback of the venue is that it has a set of pillars that are inside it, which means that if you're behind the pillars, it feels like you're watching television in somebody else's garden. If you're in front of the pillars, it's fine, but if you're behind the pillars, it feels weird and detached and distracted. And I was watching Jesus Jones, and for me, Jesus Jones are a pretty great band. They don't get the critical respect that they deserve at all. You know, they, alongside Pop Loot itself and Beastie Boys, were really pushing the limits of technological boundaries at the time with things like sampling and so on, and really, really pushing that. But because they weren't American and they weren't into kung fu movies, they, like Pop Loot itself, were kind of not taken necessarily as seriously as perhaps they should have been. And they were playing Right Here, Right Now, which is a very, very popular song, as you probably know. #1 in America. And I was standing there and I was watching them, and he was singing I'm Alive, and I waited for this. And I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I am alive. I waited for this. I waited for this moment to be in this room to see music played live again. Because when I saw the Sisters, that was my second gig in 553 days. My previous other gig, Pop Loot itself, had been a seated show where you couldn't stand up, you couldn't get out of the seat, so you had to dance in a seat, and it felt like watching a weird theatre performance, you know. Whereas seeing Jesus Jones, I could just stand there and I could move, and if I wanted to stand up, I stood up, and it was weird standing up for so long. If I wanted to play guitar, I could do. Obviously, I can't play guitar, but I'm very good at air guitar, and just dance and sing and just enjoy it and just be the way that things used to be. And it was quite an experience indeed. So there are 2 things that I've done this week which I haven't done before for a very long time indeed, and it felt normal and weird at the same time. And it's good to be back. It really is. But that's 4 minutes of me talking about something which I'm not going to tell you, which is not what the subject of today's episode is about. Today's episode is my vinyl haul, but it's not really vinyl. It also includes CDs and DVDs. And the first thing I'm going to show you, and I'm kind of going alphabetically through the formats, by the way. First thing I'm going to show you is this. This is Depeche Mode book by Anton Corbijn. which is called Strangers, and this was published in 1990 at the end of the Violation era. I've looked this one up. It is an astronomical amount of money in certain places, like £130, and I think a lot of the photographs that appear in this have also been reprinted recently in the big DMAC 8118 Taschen Super Mega Hardback, which I showed you in the Construction Time Again period. I will be going through this in more detail when I talk through the Violator album by Depeche Mode. But what I wanted to show you was two things. Firstly, my brother bought this as a chuck out from Birmingham Library, where it cost him a grand total of £1, and this is the library card that showed all the times that the book was taken out of the library. It was last taken out, I think, on the 30th of June 2000. And this is the book. This is the Depeche Mode Strangers that I took out of the library. This is the exact copy that I took out of the library probably about 5 times in the 90s, really, really wishing that I owned it, but I couldn't afford the, I think the £13.95 to buy it. But this was a pound, and it's a very, very nice book of all Anton Corbijn's photography from the period. That I'm really, really pleased with that. That's been one of my my missing links in my Depeche Mode collection, and as you've already noticed, I've got a huge Depeche Mode collection. So I'm going to quickly go through the CDs which I got. Yes, I still buy CDs. Here's a Jesus Jones CD, Chemical Number 1. That's a promotional version. Here's a rarity for you. Morrissey's Maladjusted promotional version in a card sleeve from Island Studios. This is the UK edition. It does not have the worst Morrissey song of all time, Sorrow Will Find You in the End, or Sorrow Will Come to You in the End, on there. Okay, so here's Ian Brown's Music of the Spears. Yep. Sometimes you might think, well, Ian Brown, bit dodge, mate. Well, this one's signed by Ian Brown, which is nice to have. A one-track promo of The Cure's Just Like Heaven CD from the Show album in a battered case. For a limited edition, promotional, not for sale. I don't even know why I have these things, actually. Here's a good one as well. This is The Cure's Blood Flowers. This is the UK CD, but it's a promotional copy with a different back cover. Again, used to find these really, really quite cheaply. Here is the soundtrack to the film Drive. Lots of great synthwave stuff on that. In Excess's Live Baby Live. I will die on this hill. In Excess were a fantastic live band, and I really wish that Michael Hutchence had got to live so we could have got to see what they would have become in their later years. This is one of the best live albums of all time. It's up there with Iron Maiden's Live After Death, Kraftwerk's Minimum Maximum, and that James Brown one that everyone talks about. Mega City 4, Soul Scraper. I love Mega City 4, but they because obviously Wiz died, people have kind of forgotten that Mega City 4 ever did stuff and ever existed, which is such a shame. And here's an unusual one, Yellow Magic Orchestra. This has got remixes by the Orb and the Shaman, so it is very much a 1992 era release. Now, the last of the CDs which I'm going to be showing you is today's new Manic's album. This came out on Friday, the Ultra Vivid Lament. This is the signed version with the demo CD and a hardback book, and one of the finest pages in any book that I've seen. You could frame that, really, you really could. Now, I've only heard the Ultra Vivid Lament once. I will do a review of it in time because I really, really love the Manic Street Preachers. They're a band that have an incredible amount of importance to me, and I'm not a fan of their more recent stuff. This is the signed version that came from their official web store, which has an astronomical £7.50 in postage costs. At the time the album was released, the only place you could get the double CD and the book pack, and also it was signed, was to buy it from the band's official web store. £7.50 to post this. It's about £3 at most to post this. It was a bloody rip-off. And of course Amazon now did a version with a signed insert. It was both cheaper and, because it was Amazon, didn't cost £7.50 to post. Okay, so we're going to go into the DVDs and the CDs now. No, the DVDs. This is the first one. This is Southland Tails. Got from CEX in Southend. I didn't get it, my brother bought it for £12. It's on Arrow. Arrow do fantastic Blu-ray editions of weird and unusual, quirky films, and they do the real kind of, you know, Criterion Collection level releases. This has a number of documentaries on it. It also has a previously unreleased in the home media format, Cannes cut, which is the premiere version of the film that's 20 minutes longer. I watched it yesterday. Southland Tails. It's bonkers. It really, really is. It's like about 4 films at once. I can't tell you whether the Cannes cut is better or worse. It's just longer, really. Here's another one. Tideland, again on Arrow. Fantastic cover illustration there by not by Terry Gilliam, but that was £4. And I do like Terry Gilliam's films. I think he said a couple of dodgy things in some interviews, but you do have to try and get to separate the art from the artist, although obviously if the artist makes something that's absolutely awful, you can't. Here's an unusual one for you. This is the US edition of Stallone's First Blood, which is, I think, one of his best films. Obviously, by the time it got to First Blood 2, and it was all jingoistic, flag-waving, do we get to win this time bullshit. I love that film, actually, and it's also got probably the most realistic depiction of an on-screen nervous breakdown that I've ever seen. That was £1. Casino, Martin Scorsese, great movie. I do need to watch this again sometimes. I watched Goodfellas recently. That was £1. Here's one that I absolutely love. The VHS versions. The HMV did kind of like VHS replica kind of versions of movies. So remember the old VHS tapes that you had in the 80s, and they've recreated a photograph of the tape, and then you've got, let's have a look in here. We've got the Blu-ray, and we've got the DVD, and we've got a load of empty space. But also, oh look, you've got 2 collector's cards. Who's the bad guy? Me, etc. Al Pacino in a very, very nice looking bath. Al Pacino with a machine gun, because obviously that's what a huge amount of Scarface is. And also here's a poster. Now, at some point I might talk about Scarface. That film was very, very influential, which you might be surprised. I'm very well spoken, and I haven't killed anyone, nor dealt drugs, nor blown up a car on its way to giving a speech at the United Nations, nor become a drug runner or anything like that. But it was influential in so much as it kind of was a parable and a warning about power and money and God knows what else. What else have we got in the DVD pile? Yes, I still buy old media. Judge me. An American DVD of Kroll and a strange and unusual film I've not seen since 1983 called Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. Kroll is pretty good. Space Hunter could be absolute rubbish. No idea. That was about 30p. Here's the Ramones' last gig. We're out of here. That was about 30p as well. This is a Blu-ray of For All Mankind. I got this from a charity shop, actually. I did pay £6 for it, but I'm not going to complain because firstly, all the money goes to charity, and secondly, it's a really great movie. It's a documentary using NASA footage, and it's probably the definitive tale of mankind going to space, which I think people will look at in future and go, why didn't we keep more of this stuff? Why didn't we do more of this stuff? I don't mind. Also, by the way, as a general hint, if you're in a village or a town or something and it's got charity shops, go at least once a week if you're interested in buying this type of stuff, because stuff like this never sits around on the shelves for too long. I got this as they were quite literally putting it out. 30p from a charity shop, Kim Newman's Guide to the Flip Side of British Cinema, which is pretty weird, and also has a film called Carousella, Tomorrow Night in London, The Spy's Wife, and a whole bunch of other stuff on there. That's going to be an interesting watch. It might be a bit cheeky, I don't know. This is a film I haven't seen since I was about 12. Ken Russell's Crimes of Passion. That could be awful. Well, that was 30p, well spent. Rosemary's Baby, 30p, well spent. Again, remember, I'm buying a lot of these because, well, frankly, I want to. Here's one that was a whole £1. The Ghoul, British horror movie from relatively recently, which was executive produced by Ben Wheatley, and I love what Ben Wheatley does. He generally makes good, interesting films. There's never a shortage of thought that he applies to that. Again, 20p for Oliver Stone's W, about 20p for Adventureland, Casualties of War, Cronenberg's Crash, recently reissued by Arrow, but again, 20p, well spent. I saw this movie, Hope and Glory by John Boorman. I saw this at the cinema. I used to get free tickets for advanced preview screenings and review things. Here's a Kirk Douglas in the life story of Vince Van Gogh in Lust for Life. That was 20p well spent. This is a a really, really grim movie now. I haven't seen this for about 30 years. Kids by Larry Clark. Oh man, that is depressing. I'll have to consider watching that at some point. 20p, Robert Downey Jr. in Less Than Zero. Meet Joe Black for 20p. Not seen it. Meant to be good. No idea. And then quite an influential British film, Robbery, which was directed by, let me get correctly, I think it was Stanley Baker. Peter Yates. And it was the car chases in this movie that inspired, I think, the film Bullet. And then the last one, and again, I haven't seen this for a long time, Someone to Watch Over Me by Ridley Scott. Ridley is a very, very talented director, and sometimes the quality of the work is defined by the script, and the scripts aren't as good as his. Now, this is something I'm really, really pleased about. I got this from eBay in an auction for about €9. This is the 3-disc German media book edition of one of my favourite films of all time, The Thing. This features, by the way, although it's got a lovely book and sleeve in here, and lots of essays in German which I don't fully understand, this is the way to get on Region 2 almost all of the extras from the super special Fancy Pants Scream Factory version of The Thing. And the Scream Factory version of The Thing has some exclusive extras which you can't get anywhere else in the world, including a Betamax tape sourced off-air TV recording of the TV edition of the movie, which runs 20 minutes shorter and has about 10 minutes of extra footage in and moves about half an hour out of it. So all the gore, all the swearing, all the blood and guts have gone, and there's lots of alternate takes, and there's a narrator, and there's a different ending. And the TV version of The Thing is not particularly good, but it's a fascinating curio, and it's absolutely definitely worth seeing. And considering it is probably in my top 3 films of all time, the other 2 are Blade Runner and Dougal and the Blue Cat, by the way, I thought, no, I really, really need to see this alternate terrible TV cut of The Thing. I can confirm is awful, terrible, no good, very bad indeed, but that's not really the point. There's also a whole bunch of extras that are exclusive to the Scream Factory American edition and to the German 3-disc media book edition. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just the American version with the German text over it. Now we're going on to CDs. Got to show you this one. New Orders, Be a Rebel. Now we're going on to the vinyl now. Going to go for the 7 inches first, if that's okay. I had a really interesting package arrive in the post. Completely forgotten that I'd ordered it. I vaguely remembered every once in a while, where's that thing that I ordered last year? So it is the Metallica Vinyl Club. If you're a member of the Metallica fan club, you could order or you could get a subscription to their vinyl club, which was 4 7-inch singles released once every 3 months. Obviously it took slightly longer than that thanks to COVID. I decided to have them all in one package in one go because it reduced the postage costs by something like £10, and I am patient. There are 4 7-inch singles in here, and the singles are effectively side 1, Live at Donington, 1987. This is the first 7-inch, and I'll show you what's in here because these are pretty damn nice packages actually. So what you've got is a inner sleeve with some text, explanatory text from Lars. You've got a 7-inch with this is, I think, For Whom the Bell Tolls from Donington 1987, and Leper Messiah, Live at Donington 1987. And you get a poster as well. Let's see what the poster is. Oh look, it's some drunk blokes in a shower. There you are. Again, Metallica I'm going to start talking about when I mention the... And you've also got a download card in there, by the way, in case that's something that you're interested in. So you can download the 7-inch single. These are really nice little extras. I think it cost me... I think the total price of this, including the postage, was I think £49. So it works out about £10 a single plus postage. So, which is pretty much what a 7-inch single costs these days. I mean, in my mind, 7-inch singles still cost £1.99, but in my mind, it's still 19.96. This is the second 7-inch. This is the Mother Lode EP, which is recorded in a contest winner's hometown on a truck, and features Sad But True and Whiplash, recorded in a bar in a place called Brunssum in the Netherlands, which I have not been to. And features live versions of Sad But True and Whiplash recorded there. unsurprisingly, here's some stickers. Because they come with extra bumps in them. I can't imagine Metallica are making too much money out of these. I mean, these numbered limited editions. These are all under 4,000, so maybe there's 4,000 of these. I'm not sure. This is a good one. This is I Disappear, Leaked and Live, which features the early version of I Disappear, which was all over Napster, hence the Napster good, or sorry, Napster bad, money good thing. It also features again an inner sleeve, a 7-inch. And here's a booklet which is around the making of the video and the storyboards for the video. So that's a lovely little package there. Really like it. Again, I Disappear I don't think has been released on vinyl until the Mission Impossible soundtrack came out very recently for a Record Store Day release. But certainly there's never been a single vinyl edition of I Disappear. And the last one, this one's getting big money on Discogs already, the Tribute to Chris Cornell EP, recorded at the Metallica Tribute to Chris Cornell show, January 16th, 2019. It features 4 postcards, again following on from the Hardwired to Self-Destruct era imagery, which is a projection of Chris Cornell upon the band, and then a 7-inch with some all access passes and some text from Lars, again telling us how fantastic Chris was. What a shame, man. What a shame. I only saw Soundgarden once. I wish I'd seen them more. Right, 2 more 7-inches. The Cure, that's high. That was £2, which is pretty much a bargain. Well, I think it's a bargain anyway. And here's a 7-inch that you can't buy individually. This is Orwellian by the Manic Street Preachers. This comes with some editions from indie stores only of their new album, The Ultra Vivid Lament. And it's backed with an exclusive B-side, the Gweno remix of Orwellian. And I have feelings and thoughts about this album. But I'll get to that when I do a review. Now, that means that I have in here a 7-inch of, or more correctly an LP, of the most recent Manic's album, The Ultra Vivid Lament. So let's go on to the vinyl. This is a pretty important record in world history. You may not necessarily think so. It has the first LP appearances of Depeche Mode, Soft Cell and other. This record has cost me thousands of pounds over the years because I spent thousands of pounds on Depeche Mode and the and Soft Cell stuck together. It features 3 exclusive recordings. One is a version of the first released Depeche Mode track, Photographic. The second one by the Untitled has never been reissued. It's not been on anything else ever. And the track on side 2, it has Soft Cell's The Girl with the Patent Leather Face, making Soft Cell's first album appearance, and also a track by Blancmange called Sad Day. This cost me £4, and you can probably tell by having seen how water damaged it is, it probably should have cost me no more than that. This used to go for like 20-30 quid back when I was younger and had a full head of hair. It's also got the inner sleeve, and it's got a poly sleeve in there as well. I bought this because of the Depeche Mode, the and Soft Cell things, and I've never seen a vinyl copy of them at an affordable price, or a price I was prepared to pay for it until relatively recently. Here's one that I picked up in London, the double LP original motion picture soundtrack to Apocalypse Now. This I got out of the library in Birmingham. Birmingham Library was probably the most influential single building in the world for my music taste, and I recorded it to tape, and I've always wanted it since then. This was £8, but it's bloody worth it. £8 for a double LP of the Apocalypse Now soundtrack in a gatefold sleeve, and also here goes inner sleeve as well, and there's an inner sleeve in this version, although the version I got out of Birmingham Library didn't have an inner sleeve in there. But this is a weird kind of condensed 90-minute audio edit of the film. So it's got narration, it's got music, it's got sound effects. In the days when VHS home releases didn't exist or were staggeringly expensive, and you wanted to relive Apocalypse Now, you either had to wait for it to be on television, or you had to wait for it to re-show at the cinema, or you could buy this and get a 90-minute version of Apocalypse Now. It's quite a thing. Now, next one. This was considerably cheaper than £8. Tin Machine, the single Tin Machine, featuring the David of Bowie's, and also cover version of Bob Dylan's Maggie's Farm by Tin Machine and I Can't Read, both recorded live at La Scale in Paris in 1989. Tin Machine was my entry point to David Bowie, which you may be very, very surprised to hear. But when I talk through the David Bowie albums, that may help you. This was my brother's, and he still has a whole bunch of his whole original vinyl, although I'm sad to say he lost some during one of his house moves, which is a nice way of putting it. Here's something you probably wouldn't be expecting to see: the Escape from New York remix 12-inch from 1996. I have heard this. It is terrible, but it's one of the very few commercial contemporary singles from the period. It's the same as the theme from Escape from New York, but it's Escape from LA, which is exactly the same. It's just a re-recorded version of the track with some jungle mixes on. Not particularly good. Whilst we're on a John Carpenter tip, boys and girls, I picked this up, John Carpenter's Lost Themes. A huge fan of John Carpenter. Here is the black vinyl version alongside a download card which has been used. I think I paid £9 for this. Well, I think John Carpenter is great. He's very, very good and had a hugely influential role. Fair to say, my love of all things electronic started with John Carpenter. I also picked up the John Carpenter Lost Themes remixes album, which comes in a beautiful colour of vinyl. This was I think £8 online, which when you think about that, I mean, I'm a sucker for coloured vinyl, but they know that now. They're doing coloured vinyl versions of everything. They're going to do like a Pantone 239 version of the album, which is in the exact right shape of, or the exact shade of magenta. And then they'll try and do another 1000 limited edition Pantone 238, and then an orange one, which is probably Pantone 512. Who knows? But that's just a beautiful vinyl disc. The remixes are pretty adventurous. But I thought, wow, £8, £9, that's like what a 12-inch costs these days. I just think of it as a 33 RPM 12-inch of remixes of tracks by John Carpenter. So I've bought a lot of records, but I have been off this week, by the way, so it's okay because I've spent a lot of time listening to a lot of records. Now the next one, this again is one that my brothers have kept in trust for a long period of time. Fields of the Nephilim's best album, Elysium. This is the copy that I bought from HMV in Leicester for £3.99 of the album. And, well, it smells 90s, that's definitely true. This is my favourite album, and I absolutely love the Fields of the Nephilim. And if you don't, that's entirely up to you, but this is an original early 90s pressing. Next one. Frightened Rabbit, Painting of a Panic Attack. I have very little Frightened Rabbit vinyl because it is so expensive to get and it's often out of press. This is the last album that the band recorded, and it's glorious. It's beautiful, and it does things to me I can't really describe. There's just something about that band. I saw this was £16, which is a fair chunk of change, but I was like, you know what, I want it, I really want it. The band, and that's the thing, right? If you're buying records just because they're cheap, or you're buying records because you can have them because they're rare and they're cheaper than they're meant to be, you shouldn't have the records. You should only buy records if they mean something to you, if they change you, if they speak to you and you go, I love this band, I love these songs, they help me through the day. If you're buying it just because it's rare and it's cheap, you've got to like the band. You know, there are things I've left on the shelf that I know are much, much cheaper and worth much, much more. But I've bought them because I like the band. And if I don't like the band, I don't buy them because, frankly, I want someone else to have the bargain. I'm not talking through these and going, oh, look, I bought this and it's cheap and now I can sell it to you for £600 because, frankly, that's a dick move. I'm just talking about records that I love. This is the new Manic's album, The Ultra Vivid Lament. This is the version that's only available from the indie stores that has an Orwellian 7-inch single in there, which I showed you the 7-inch of Orwellian. And the Manics don't release physical singles. I don't think they've released a physical single since, I think it's Show Me to the Bridge in 2013. The only way to get those physical singles now, apart from record store day exclusives and weird online things, is to buy the albums and to have the 7-inch with them on there. I do wish the release strategy for this album is pretty hostile actually to the people, because there's coloured vinyl versions of the albums. There's different covers of the albums. There's signed editions of the albums. There's versions of the album that only has a 7-inch that you can only get from various indie stores in there. But it all just seems to me to be an excuse to get your record collector to buy an album 4 or 5 times and get it further up the charts. Don't worry, I see what you're doing, but I'm not going to pay 20 something pounds to have a yellow vinyl version of an album when, frankly, you shouldn't be selling me a yellow vinyl version in a different colour. Just stop putting out so many different bullshit versions of albums. Alright, none of us are made of money. Here's a goodie. 9 Inch Nails, The Hand That Feeds DFA remixes. This was £10, but good God, that's worth it, because those DFA remixes are fantastic. And it's got an exclusive 14.5-minute dub version on it. And I love 9 Inch Nails. They're a band that haven't changed as much as I have over time, I think it's fair to say. But then the other flip side of that is the soundtrack work by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This is the 2020 pressing of The Social Network. This was sealed and it was £20, but sometimes you gotta buy a record because you really love it. I love this album. As far as I'm concerned, Trent Reznor's soundtrack work is kind of like listening to an ambient 9 Inch Nails, very reminiscent of things like A Warm Place or the Ghosts albums. Same kind of thing, same kind of approach, and it's just a lovely package. I looked at it and I was like, oh God, to be honest, I'm taking you home. Right, R.E.M's Murmur on vinyl. I love Murmur. I know I've been pretty disparaging about it when I was talking about some of the earlier R.E.M. albums in an earlier episode. I think the thing is, I connect more with later R.E.M. because I experienced later R.E.M. in real time before my eyes. But these albums are still meaningful and important to me. I just prefer the later ones. So this is an IRS edition from the mid-80s. It's got the track listing in the wrong order on the back because that's how R.E.M. did things. Which means if you were going to write down the tracks, you had to copy what was on the label on your C90 tape. And there's the trestle, which, by the way, you can still see the trestle in Athens in Georgia. Look it up on Google Street Map. It's quite fascinating actually to just go for a drive around it, because there's a house maybe about 10-20 feet away from where that is, which you wouldn't necessarily think. That was £20. This R.E.M's Document, the last of the vinyl albums from R.E.M's classic period that I don't have. Again, this was £20, but Document it's really hard to get a hold of a copy of Document at a decent price these days. Most of them are around £60 or something, which is bizarre. I think maybe because the format was kind of vaguely switching over to CD. So from about 1987 onwards, vinyl editions of albums, the original vinyl editions, become quite tough to get hold of. So there you go. I also picked up Stand, the first single from Green. I already have Stand on 12-inch. I have the reissue, which is backed with a couple of different tracks. So the version which has a couple of different tracks that I already own is backed with Pop Song 89 and Skin Tight, recorded in Orlando. This is backed with Memphis Train Blues and the 11th Untitled song. So this is the version that came out before the album came out of Stand. I also got the 12-inch of Orange Crush. I always wanted this, and this has Ghost Riders in the Sky and Dark Globe, a cover of the Syd Barrett track on the B-side. So that was £5. The original Stand was £5, and it doesn't matter really. What matters is how much is it worth to you? How much does it matter to you? Because if it doesn't matter to you, you shouldn't be owning it or buying it. Now, the last thing I'll do in the alphabetical period is this Tangerine Dream soundtrack to, I think I've never pronounced this and I'm never going to, so I'm going to call it Tatort, is what it is. It's a German-only 12-inch of the soundtrack to a German television show by Tangerine Dream. I've had this in my Discog cart for ages, and it's almost been about £15, which is too much money. But I saw this at Reckless or Relentless in Camden, not Camden, Soho, £4. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to buy you, which I did. And when we were in London, we also went to this exhibition at the Barbican. It's in the Barbican Music Library, by the way. It's free to enter, which is an exhibition and display of Tangerine Dream synthesizers, equipment, memorabilia, other bits and bobs. You've got an opportunity to buy some vinyl albums, some CDs, caps, badges, posters, badges, stickers and t-shirts. This gives you a guide as to what's in there. It's there until December, so if you're in London in the next 3 months and you're near Barbican, you can go and see some free Tangerine Dream stuff. Now, the biggie, which I think will surprise quite a few of you, is what I'm about to show you, which is all of these. I got a boatload of Beatles albums, and Beatles is probably the thing where everyone will go, there's, you know, guys that do, look, today we're going to clean Beatles records with the original Emitex cleaning material that's recommended on the back of the Beatles album. I'm not going to do that. My father-in-law has recently inherited a selection of Beatles albums, so these are my father-in-law's listening to copies that he has loved since the mid-60s. This is the With the Beatles. Now, I don't have Please Please Me because that version is staggeringly expensive, that he has in his possession, but this is one of the original this is one of the original With the Beatles from the mid-60s, in its original inner sleeve. And I've stuck these through a record cleaner because they look really beaten up. I've got to remember, these records have been loved and listened to for over 50 years. They have been adored, they have been played by him when he was a teenager, they have been taken to parties, they've probably been stolen at parties, they are covered in scratches. He's clearly tried to look after and love these, but these are not these were toys. People looked at Beatles albums and they were toys. They were pop music. No one was, when they were buying them, was thinking 50, 60 years from now people are going to be holding this copy of the album and talking about it on a thing called the internet, which hasn't been invented yet, let alone on YouTube. This is a stereo version of With the Beatles. It's got the original sleeve there. I've tried to work out which version of it there is, but when I looked on Discogs, there were something like 711 versions of this album, and I can't be fucking bothered, sorry to swear, to go through all of that. But these were effectively, I'm going to have to give my father-in-law some cash for these, but I got a nearly full Beatles collection, just missing Please Please Me and Yellow Submarine. Here's a mono Hard Day's Night. Again, this one has been in the wars. You look at it and, you know, you can really see this has got a cut down there. Presumably that's like some kind of deletion hole or something. It's got an inner sleeve. This might be an original. It certainly looked yellow enough to be so, but it probably isn't because it's got a different address for EMI Records on there. Again, this one, been in the wars. But to be honest, I like records that have been in the wars because they've got stories to tell. They've had a lot of love. They've been listened to a lot of times. People have had drunk nights out. People have probably played them to their dates on various nights before I was even born. For all I know, this was the record that people were listening to the night that maybe, you know, my partner's husband's mum and dad met. Who knows? This is a second-hand copy. This one, again, has a name on it, D.A. Boyle. Don't know who you are, dude, but you've got great taste in records. This is not an original inner sleeve because the original inner sleeve of this was in a really bad state. This is a mono version of Help. These are all, by the way, the UK editions of the albums. There are two exceptions which we will get to because it's relevant. So my father-in-law was stationed in Germany and didn't get to see the Beatles, although oddly enough my first girlfriend's mother saw the Beatles at Cardiff Odeon in 1964, I believe. She was an usher there, actually, and the strange and unusual thing about that is she said, I saw the Beatles and I heard the Beatles, but I spent most of my time dragging fainting teenage girls out of the way. This is Beatles for Sale, gatefold sleeve, mono edition. This is from, again, the mid-60s, I believe. I don't necessarily know. I haven't listened to any of these. I have cleaned them up, but obviously they've got scratches and ticks and wears in there that have come from years of being loved. Next one, Rubber Soul. This is, again, as you can probably tell, it's been in the wars, but you want them to be in the wars. You know, you want the albums to tell you stories. This feels like it might be an original inner sleeve here. This is a mono edition. It's also available in stereo, by the way. And actually, I do need to check. I presume mono versions just play the same sound out of both speakers, so there's no stereo separation in there. No idea. Here's Revolver. This is a stereo edition. Presumably he'd upgraded his stereo system. And again, you have to use Emitex record cleaner. I'm sure somebody has bought Emitex online and therefore now used it and went, well, it's rubbish, it's all dried out because the Emitex is 6 years old. This I think is an original inner sleeve for the LP. I could be wrong. It's pretty exciting. Then we've got, now this is the only Beatles record, by the way, which I didn't get yesterday. This is a gold vinyl version of the Beatles Greatest, which I found in a charity shop for £2.50 on Odeon Records, original inner sleeve, and that's the gold there. I saw it and I was like, you know, I'm going to have to get that. It's pretty beat up, but it's gold and it's rare, and somebody, the record shop originally, maybe that sticker was on it originally, I'm not sure, a special edition gold vinyl pressing. We're getting into the big stuff here. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is an original 60s version of it, printed and made by Garrett and Lofthouse in the days before barcodes. So you open it out. Oh look, there's those familiar guys. Probably about the only people that have ever rocked the moustache look and have been able to get away with it. Held together by sticky tape, love, and lots of other stuff. Surprisingly, this one, not so many scratches and so on and so forth, but oh man, I mean, how often do you get a chance to get all these Beatles things? Well, I mean, actually probably quite common, because the band did sell quite a lot of copies after all. It wasn't like they were an Albanian tractor farmer folk song bone records from the 70s that were, you know, printed on vinyl made out of former X-rays. Nearly finished though. This is one of the 90s versions of the albums, probably because Magical Mystery Tour wasn't released as an LP in the UK until the catalogue was standardised sometime many years later. So this is I think this is a 1987-1990 version of the Magical Mystery Tour with all the accoutrements. It smells considerably less old. It's also got the new Parlophone labels on there. Those Parlophone labels are contemporary to around about 1987. I haven't played these because I only got them yesterday, and there's only so much time. Now this is the White Album. You've probably heard of this in the same way that Metallica did the Black Album. This is a late 90s version of the LP. Again, it's got the 4 pictures and the fold out sleeve, so it's got the prints of the various band members. This one, I don't know if this one's even been played actually, come to think of it. It certainly looks it, and it's got the lyric insert in there. But certainly, you know, my father-in-law decided he's going to have the version that's got the numbers on from the 60s. Abbey Road, again, original edition. I think this is this is probably not the original inner sleeve, but this is the inner sleeve that it's got in there. A stereo version from 1969, and then Let It Be. So this is the second edition of Let It Be that came out after the initial box version. For some reason, it's my dad. Well, it's not my dad. It really looks like my dad, or my dad when he was younger. Again, just a standard paper sleeve. There's probably an inner sleeve on some versions, but not on this one. And this one's pretty beat up, but all of those didn't cost me anything. And then finally, Beatles Red and Blue albums. Wow, really wasn't expecting that. So that's I think does that classify as a vinyl haul? I don't know. It looks pretty good. It feels like I've been chatting at you for about 3/4 of an hour, talking about, look at all the records I've got. And I may not ever do one of these ever again, but it's been quite a bountiful week. A lot of stuff has come into the collection, and therefore, like all blokes, I've had to spend a little bit of time rearranging my shelves to make sure everything fits. Because, you know, when you see people and they've got loads and loads of space on their shelves, I'm kind of thinking, man, how have you got space on your shelves? I just don't. I've never had space on my shelves because I've always had shelves that have been, you know, fit to match up with the records that we've got. And so the idea of having spare space on your shelves is just decadent and outrageous. Or maybe I just need to live in a bigger house, maybe get my own museum of music, who knows. Right, I'm going to wrap up here. It's been weird, because normally I spend this time talking about an album or a gig or a film or a book or something, and going really into deep undercover, as I said in Beverly Hills Cop 2, about a particular band or artist. And instead I've just gone, look at all these things what I bought, aren't I good? And well, I'm really pleased. I could say I've got great taste, although I'm not necessarily sure that Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone will ever be regarded by anybody as anything less than a pile of exploitative, cheap rubbish made to put bums on seats at the cinemas in the mid-80s. But, you've got to have the chance to do it. And also what I would recommend is, if I'm on Amazon Prime, is that they have a section called Films Under 90 Minutes, and I've spent lots of time watching lots of films that I used to watch when I was younger. Cheap, exploitative, tacky trash like Extro, Inseminoids, Escape from the Bronx, Star Crash, and rubbish like that. Space Truckers. I watched Dennis Hopper in Space Truckers yesterday. It's awful. Don't do it, but be careful, because there's a lot of dirt in there. Anyway, take care of yourselves and each other. It's good to be back in the big bad world. I will see you all again soon. Stay beautiful, people. Bye.